like, to me, the development of a place like that is all about whether or not it's actually in HD. All the TVs.
Oh.
Like, all the TVs are not in HD. They're all stretched. So it all looks terrible to me.
Oh, okay.
Now, that should not be important when it comes to fitness.
I guess I haven't.
But for some reason,
I've been doing the machine, so I haven't been back there.
Right. Well, I get on the elliptical and I'm looking at a screen, and so the whole time I'm just watching.
Are they the ones up? Like
yeah,
is
yeah,
that
yeah.
How yours is too?
The big wall.
Well, this one just opened in October, so it's brand new.
Hey, what? I'm just laughing at myself for like that's my criteria for quality
for a gym.
in a fitness. That would drive me crazy. Like, I would leave. Right. See, I'm not alone about that. It is absurd, but I'm not alone.
I don't know. I would look and be like, that's stretch, but I'm only paying $10.
Right. Exactly. Well, this week their water heater went out, and so there was like a time where there was no water for the showers and like no hot water. And then when they were fixing it, and of course they're open 24 hours, so it's like,
are they?
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't realize that.
Yeah. So like,
I've never had the urge to go.
You didn't want to go at like 3 a.m. So yeah, it was bad for a while.
Okay.
But you can go to any of them, internet, like all across.
I wonder
the
if
nation.
since we're both.
Did you know that? Since we're both like.
Since we're both working out,
swole.
I wonder if we're still fitting in the frame.
It's probably. That's just terrible.
I look so pumped
What's
up.
happening?
All right.
All right. You ready?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Hi, everybody. Welcome to the Big Idea Podcast. My name is Eric Bramlett, and I am joined by...
Tammy Melchien.
How you doing today, Tammy?
Good. Thank you.
Good. It is good to be here talking about Good Friday and Easter.
Is it?
It is good.
Okay.
I mean...
I couldn't tell if you were...
Don't get me wrong. I love this podcast, but I also hate this podcast a little bit. That's a reference to something else. If you know what I'm referencing, then good on you. But yeah, I am excited. I'm excited for the weather to change first. I mean, honestly, I'm ready for spring.
Maybe by the time people are watching this, it will be spring.
Maybe, but
probably not.
It's not likely.
Maybe by the time we do this, it'll be spring.
I think it's cute that we think that people watch this. But we do want to talk about...
Shout out to...
Shout out to... our fan. We do want to talk about Good Friday and Easter. Yes. As in other years, we are kind of doing a part 1 and part 2 feel in terms of the content and how we're focusing that content. And maybe unlike some other Big Idea podcast descriptions, we actually have already had the brainstorms and the read-throughs prior to filming this. So we actually, when we're saying,
just go read the manuscripts.
So from this point, you should be able to go right to the manuscripts if you want further detail. So we'll keep it brief and head you in the right direction. What are we talking about with regards to Good Friday and Easter?
Well, our angle on it this time is we're looking at the story of Jesus' crucifixion and his resurrection through the eyes of some of the obscure characters. And so what we're going to do on Good Friday is we are going to think about what it would have been like to experience that night through the eyes of the servant girl, who... the servant of the high priest who recognized Peter.
And asked him all about his stuff.
And he denied it.
Denied it a couple of times.
Yes. The second person is Barabbas, who was the guy, the prisoner that was released instead of Jesus. And the third person is the Roman centurion who was at the cross. And so now, obviously, we don't have a lot of biblical details about them. So what we decided to do with this is interweave the actual biblical text that we would love for you guys to figure out the best way for us to present that biblical text. Yeah. So we'll have this element where they're hearing the actual scripture.
Right.
And then
and we're all the way into Good Friday at this point. Yes.
Yes.
Right, got it.
Where you're hearing the scripture and then we took some creative license to imagine what it would have been like to be these 3 characters. Gotcha. And so we basically tell the story of Good Friday by weaving in and out an in-person teacher talking, however we come up with to do the scripture in person.
Yeah.
like it weaves in and out, and
Yeah,
it's on the map there.
And in our
Shows
early
the flow.
conversations about that scripture, it's been, it will be something on video, but what it will, what will be on the screen or how we'll hear it, or how we'll see it, those are kind of the things that we're going to be wanting to
Yeah,
brainstorm.
we want to
and try
lean into the
figure out.
factory to figure that part
Yep,
out.
absolutely. So yeah, I think it's going to be great. I think another thing to mention about that for Good Friday is to be thinking in terms of the preparedness that's necessary for a teaching pastor. That this is more so than your average Sunday morning talk. This is really going to be ideal if it's as manuscriptless as possible. And so memorization, certainly for the movements and the sections, is going to be important. And I think we're also going to even recommend some stage movement and some planning of some areas in particular for these stories to take place on your stage, so that we've got some theatricality to it, got some compelling drama that's being enhanced by the stage picture that we're setting up. So again, excited about it, as excited as you can be for this kind of moment where we're telling a story that really does leave the attender wanting, and as it says in the map, asking kind of the question, what now, or what am I going to do now? So definitely
Even though we're not answering that question.
right. Well, the manuscript, certainly, I mean, these characters and the way that the overall service leaves you, it leaves you with that question,
feeling.
with
Yeah.
that feeling.
Yeah.
So,
Okay.
and it'll be a good place to kind of stop and then be ready for what happens on Easter Sunday.
Yes, so on Easter, we're continuing this idea of the more obscure characters in the story. And Easter Sunday is actually, we're going to describe what it was like to interact with and experience his life and his death and his resurrection through the eyes of Nicodemus. And so we are... Nicodemus, if you're not familiar, he was a Pharisee who early on in Jesus' ministry in John 3 comes to him and asks, starts asking some questions, but basically Nicodemus is the one who Jesus was speaking to when he spoke the words of John 3:16. And so what we're really doing in this message is setting up, you have this Pharisee who had put all his trust in the right behaviors. And what happens in John 3 is Jesus is really kind of saying it's not about behavior, it's about believing. It's about, do you believe in me? And so we're going to kind of tell Nicodemus' story of him not getting that. What does it mean have to be born again? Like he's not getting it. And, and I think it's realistic to say then throughout all of Jesus' 3 years of ministry, he's standing on the sidelines. He's watching this. He's still a Pharisee. He does nothing to speak up or stop the plot against Jesus when he is arrested and crucified. But something happens in Nicodemus at the cross. Something happens at him in the cross, because what you find is when Jesus dies, why all the other disciples flee, all the other followers flee. That's the moment when Nicodemus steps out of the shadows, away from the edges, into the center of the story, and he asks for Jesus' body. And he's actually the one who then embalms and buries Jesus' body in the tomb. And so I think what happened at the cross was the moment where he believed, where he believed, he remembered back to what Jesus had talked about in John 3 about being lifted up and drawing men to himself. And at that moment, something changed in him. And we may add into the talk, we don't have post-resurrection stuff in the Bible about Nicodemus, but our resident apocryphal
I know a lot about
here.
the fake Bible is what it turns out to be true.
Looked some stuff up and found, I guess what the, history, whether, or kind of the legend.
It's extra biblical, so it's stuff that can't really be verified and maybe was put down in in writing too many years later than we would consider to be something that could be in the canon. But
what it says is that Nicodemus, after what he did, was kicked out of the Pharisees and
believed to be baptized by Peter, believed to be a part of the way. So there's one of the apocryphal books is called the Gospel of Nicodemus, and again, I don't think we're going to try to create a an assertion, treatise for the validity of that story, but I do think it helps us, just to be able to paint a picture of his future got radically changed as perceived by history,
Yeah.
from his encounter with Jesus.
And so this talk will end with a find your way back to God ask too, because I think, especially when you think about Easter, so many people that will be here are people that have danced on the edge of the story. And there's some reason why they showed up on Easter, but yet
Right.
they've never really fully stepped in. And so it's going to be a challenge to that, to not, to believe in Jesus, not just in a head way, but in a heart way and a life way that is transforming.
Yeah, no, it's really good stuff. So I think it's going to be a great day and a great weekend. So I'm really looking forward to all the ways that God's going to work, and definitely be praying for those. This is the Sunday in the spring when everybody comes to church, and there are just a ton of people who are giving it another shot. They have run out of options to satisfy, and so they're giving this one more shot. And so it's really our opportunity to step into that gap and to really show them who Jesus is. And so that's really the goal of the day. And as you're brainstorming, be thinking about those neighbors, those friends who need to hear this, and just really hoping that they'll show up and that they'll continue their spiritual journey at Community, because it's good stuff. And I'm excited.
Good.
Anything else we're leaving out?
I don't think so.
All right. Well, have some fantastic and impactful Good Friday and Easter services. And this has been the Big Idea Podcast. So long, everybody.
Bye.